Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from Delta CX. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy, and welcome to a little bit of a rescheduled office hours Ask Me Anything on Tuesday, March 29th, 2022. Special guest, Olivia the dog. She will be taking your questions today. If you have any questions today, you can put them in the chat room, and you can also send them in anonymously at deltacx.link/ask. And we've only got one question ahead of time today, so if you have any questions today, yours will hopefully be answered quickly. And also note, I have to leave a little bit early today. Sorry for the reschedule and the short session, but I'll do my best to take everybody's questions. And Elena says hello. Did you say hello? Did you have a good day? You told me you had a good day, now you're lying. Okay, thanks for dropping by, Olivia. Okay. And back to the show. So let's take a look at our first question. But of course, first let's keep thanking the people who are kind enough to donate to the channel financially, though it is completely optional and always appreciated. Our low ego action heroes are giving $3 to $10 per month over on YouTube using the join membership feature. I like to reinvest that money into my streaming software and into delicious chocolate chips. So thanks to everybody here who's giving at the mid-level and senior level levels. I guess that's the right way to say that. So let's take a look at the first question that came in ahead of time. And of course, if you have a question, please ask it because you will be next. We only got one ahead of time today. So this was a long one, but after I read it, it finally made sense to me. So it says, to take or not take a job because of a good manager, or taking a job opportunity because of the type of work and take a risk on the manager. I think oftentimes I've seen the UX community talk about how we should vet the type of work we're doing, but that comes with a manager trade-off, which I feel we get less of a chance to vet during the interview process. However, bad managers is one of the factors I often leave a place. What can we better do in these situations? What if the manager doesn't have much of an online presence? Anything we can do to avoid potentially bad manager? Super question, and one we haven't gotten before. So thank you for the person who sent it in. Number one, I'd like to direct you over on the YouTube channel to episode 129 in our live streamed podcasts playlist. If you're having trouble finding that, just go to YouTube and write Delta CX 129, and I'm sure it'll pop right up. We had the always wonderful Julia DeBarry talking about some questions you can ask in interviews so that you know what kind of environment you're likely going into. Now, I don't remember, because it was a little while ago, how much we talked about the manager. So I think that to try to vet a manager, there's a couple of things I'd want to know. Number one, I'd probably be looking at how much experience do they have in the work. If LinkedIn tells me that, I probably wouldn't ask them in the interview. I would just go LinkedIn stalk them and check to see what their background is. If the LinkedIn looks unclear, or, hi Janice, or they're not on LinkedIn, you said they have a minimal online presence, I would probably ask them their background. You know, hi, okay, you're going to be my manager. We're going to be working closely together. I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and your story. You know, how long have you worked in UX, or, you know, what did you come from? That doesn't sound right, but you know what I'm shooting for. Ask something better than I just said, but you know what I mean. So I would try to get a feel for their background, and then I would try to get a feel for how they are going to help take care of you when things are ugly. You know, even a terrible manager can be okay when things are going great. But when things get ugly for your own work, for working with other teammates, what's that manager going to do? So you might give them some hypothetical situations. Okay, let's say I'm working on a project and I need 3 weeks to do it really well, and product or engineering said I can have 3 days. This seems like an important project. I don't want to rush it. I'm coming to you as my manager to help escalate the situation. What might you do in a case like this? Now, they could say anything, but I think whatever their answer is going to tell you a lot, because they could say, well, I'm going to suggest that you just do the best you can in 3 days. Okay, so this person seems to not want to try. Maybe they feel like they don't have power. So again, you have to decide how you feel about their answers. Vanessa, hi, Debbie. This is my first time viewing live. I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for the work you do. Thank you, Vanessa. Thanks so much. This is Ask Me Anything, and I'm usually here 6:30 p.m. Italy time, but I have something at 6 p.m. Italy time, so right now it's just after 5 p.m. Italy time. This is not our regular time. I hope people can, in the future, join at the regular time, and I'm usually here an hour, and today it'll be a little short. But please, ask anything. There are no dumb questions. There are no wrong questions. I don't think I've ever refused to answer a question, other than we now have a semi-banned question asker for someone who, as far as I can tell, I cannot prove this, appears to be a well-paid business consultant and was coming to the show and asking me the hard questions she didn't know how to answer. Well, I didn't think that was okay, because then she's going to get paid and she's going to look like the expert, and that got a little awkward. So I would say, other than her, and she's got some explaining to do to me and to her customers, all questions are welcome. All viewers are welcome. You could be in product management. You could be in engineering. You could be in marketing. Any questions you might have about CX, UX, product, happy to answer them. So to the person who asks the original question, good luck with your job interviews. And I would say just imagine some sample scenarios, especially from things that have gone wrong at previous jobs and things that made you want to leave. Hey, I once had a conflict with a coworker who was junior to me, but I found them taking credit for my work and I found them doing this. If I came to you as my manager, how would you handle something like that? I think these are perfectly reasonable questions to ask a manager. I think all questions should be, available, and give it a try. So I would say go ahead and throw hypothetical situations at them and see what they say. And also check episode 129 for some other questions that you might ask. Meow Meow is here. I think that's Kayla, right? Hey, good to see you. Sorry, I'm a little itchy from my dog. Elena saw the dog. Now there's no dog here. People think I'm lying. So as always, this is Office Hours Ask Me Anything. You can ask a question in the chat room where everyone will know your name, or if it needs to be anonymous, you can ask it using deltacx.link/ask. Vanessa has a super question, and we do get variations of this question from time to time, but it is still a good one to keep talking about. So let me just add it to the list. I copy and paste all the questions to the list. Hi, Adipta, because then these become the YouTube, what's the word I'm looking for? Description. All right, let's take a look at Vanessa's question and really go into it. And Vanessa, as I'm talking about it, if you find you have a follow-up question or a comment, just put it in the chat, because we're about 30 seconds delayed. So it's almost a live conversation, and let's treat it that way. So Vanessa's question was, what do you think about taking a UX job in a startup while in the really early stages of learning? I think that's going to be really difficult, because if you are learning, how much can you do and how well will you do it? That's not to judge you personally. You might be a fantastic, smart, wonderful, talented person, but you're still learning something new. And so the other problem is that most startups do not yet have a UX team. They will typically hire one UX newbie because that's inexpensive and it lets them imagine that UX is being done. But unfortunately, sometimes UX is not being done well because the person doing it is still learning. And again, the best environment for someone who's still learning is usually an environment with a larger UX team. Even if it's 5 people, 10 people, there's got to be other people there. You want to make sure there are seniors, leads, managers there, and you want to make sure when you're interviewing that they understand that you're junior and you're still learning, and that this is really a junior or apprenticeship universe, and that you need to have your work reviewed. You need to get the tough love. You need to get the constructive criticism. You need to be told, you used this method, but you really should have used this method. Let's talk about why. So you need that ongoing mentoring and coaching in those work reviews. When you get thrown into startup work, freelance work, and some of these other things while you are still learning and quite new, there is usually no mentor, no coach, no oversight, and nobody who can look at your work and go, oh, you know what, you picked the wrong method here. Or you know what, you made this early mistake and it set up some other things for further mistakes. And so I think that while startups love to hire UX newbies because they are less expensive than more experienced people, I typically tell startups, if you're going to hire one UX person, hire a senior with at least 5 years of experience. That way, if you're only going to have a UX team of one, you have a very experienced person who should know a range of approaches and methodologies and best practices. They should have all the foundational information and know how to apply that knowledge. And they should be able to be strategic. Strategic about the project and know how long work's going to take, what work we're doing in what order, what they need to get that done. How do they know when the work is done well? So if somebody's not going to have that kind of oversight, then you really want them to be more advanced in their career so that they are less likely to need that oversight. So I hope that helps, Vanessa. I do recommend that if you do end up getting a startup job, that you find a mentor or coach, not just as somebody to talk to or get career advice from, but somebody who is going to look at your work at every step. Because if they're not going to give you that ongoing mentoring and coaching, you still need it. But if you're not going to get it and you need it, then this is going to be tough, and it could end up affecting your mental health. It could make you feel like you're a failure. It can make you feel like you're in over your head. And of course, I don't want to see that for you or anybody. So I hope that this gives you a few ideas, but let me know if you have a follow-up question. For now, we'll jump into some of the other questions, and we'll see if Vanessa has a follow-up question, or anyone. Really, you can ask a follow-up question to Vanessa's question. We're all buddies here, and it's a conversation. So Meow Meow asked, how do you manage a UX research repository? This makes me want to sing a song that is before all of your time by decades, but the answer would be carefully, carefully. So that's a very obscure reference. Okay, so UX Research Repository. I have to admit that I don't have a lot of experience with these because as someone who tends to be a consultant and an agency, we're usually brought in, we do our work, and we sneak out. That's why people call me Mary Poppins. And so I'm usually not setting up or managing a research repository. Some of the easier ways to work with a research repository is to go with an online system that already handles these types of things. And the ones that I keep hearing about over and over, hashtag not sponsored, would be Dovetail and Aurelius, which is Aurelius. I have not seen it. I have not tried it, but I've heard great things about it. Now, I'm a paying customer of Dovetail. They don't pay me, I pay them, but I am not using it as a research repository, so I cannot comment on it. I can tell you that where I'm working right now is using Enjoy HQ, and I'm not Enjoy HQing it. I am not liking it. So I have to say that, if you like Enjoy HQ, you can certainly use it. The decision is yours. But from what I've seen of it so far, I found the repository aspects of it frustrating. Now, how do you manage a research repository? That's either going to be on the researchers to get the information in there, get the appropriate categorization or metadata in there so that people can easily find it. Because obviously the point of a repository is, hey, we knew more about X. Hey, did we already research X? Let's go see what's in the repository about X. So you need really good metadata. How do you structure the data? Yeah, you need really good metadata, all kinds of tags and keywords, because like, for example, I went into Enjoy HQ a couple of months ago to look up a project and I found almost nothing. And when I asked the researchers, why did I find so little on this project? It turns out the project used to have a different name. And if I had known that, and if I'd put that in, I would have found more stuff. That's not cool. Somebody should have gone in and updated the metadata. And I don't know if Enjoy HQ had an easy way to do that, to say, hey, take everything that was tagged X and now tag it Y because we renamed the project. So it's really only, it's garbage in, garbage out. It's really only as good as the metadata and stuff that you put in. And then it's really about the information architecture of the system. How easy is it to find the thing you're looking for and things related to it? And then, of course, what did people put into it? Do we sometimes I went into, and now this is not Enjoy HQ's fault, but I went in and I found like some research results, but I didn't see the research plans. So I had no idea if this was planned well or poorly. Like what happened here, I don't know. So I can't say there's one particular way to structure the data, and I'm not an expert on repositories, so I apologize. This is not one of my strengths and something I've had to do a lot. But I would say, look at some of these systems. They're not cheap, but if you're at a job and they're willing to invest in them, it can be worth it, especially if you make sure it's not just UX's research that's in there, but maybe look at CX or market research that can be added, or things from the data and analytics team, so that everything can end up with metadata and cross-referenced and brought together in some way. Like, hey, we want to do some research with our B2B customers. Whoa, here's some research we did 2 years ago. Do we think it's still good? And hey, here's a survey someone ran with our B2B customers 4 months ago. That might give us some clues too. So I think it's only as good as the system, what you put in it, and how you organize it with all the tagging and metadata. So that's my general advice, but I'm sorry I don't have more specific advice because I'm not as familiar with it. And Janice, I see your question. We'll put it on the end. We do have somebody before you, so please hold. Okay. Shanak is here. Did I pronounce your name right? What's a better way to pronounce it? Is it Shanak or something else? Help me out here. I'm trying to learn everybody's names. All right, so the question that came in says, thoughts on the daily UI challenge? Some people say do it. Others say it's best to do side projects. Oh, I did a great job. Okay, but which one was it? I'm going to guess it was the first one. Shanak. You tell me. How do I prepare for a design challenge for an interview I've coming? Okay, there's lots of questions in here, and that's super. Let's go through them because we've got the time. And let me just check if I'm missing anybody else's questions coming in through the anonymous way. No, it looks like no anonymous questions yet. That's fine. Okay, so let's go through this. Thoughts on the daily UI challenge? For me, the daily UI challenge tends to be a no. And that's because unless you just want to be a visual designer, because since it is a UI challenge, it's, hey, can you imagine a good visual design for this? But you don't get to be a problem finder. You don't get to be a problem solver. And what do you really know about our good old favorite people, systems, and context? Who's using this? What is this? What's the context of use? What's their task right now? What's their priorities? What did we learn about them when we researched? Now, if you're only doing the visual design on something, then sure, you can do daily UI challenge. I'm not going to press thumbs up on it on LinkedIn because to me, it's visual design without any other information. And sometimes the things I see show that the person doesn't understand accessibility, which is really important if you're going to do any visual or UI design. So I think that the daily UI design challenge is also very strange in that who's checking your work? Again, we go back to what we were saying to like Vanessa, who checked your work and said, you know what? I saw your daily UI challenge and I thought that it stunk for these reasons. Now, I remember once upon a time, like a year or so ago, Darren and I showed up under a couple of people's UI challenges in LinkedIn and we tried to give them some constructive constructive feedback, and they bitched us out and they blocked us, and it was like, oh, okay, so you don't want any feedback here. You just want to be like, look, I did a thing. So I think that's another thing to consider is, if you are going to do some sort of challenges, don't you want somebody who is some sort of expert in this area, a mentor, a coach, somebody, to take a look at this and give you some feedback and say, this doesn't look like a very correct mobile paradigm because you made an app and here's why it doesn't make sense. Or you used an Android paradigm with an iPhone paradigm. What is this? So you could have that. Or it could be a website. So I think that, to me, daily UI challenge doesn't really make sense, because who's checking your work and who's helping you get better? Otherwise, you're just showing off a bunch of screens. And again, people, systems, context, I don't know what they are or why they're there. And all I can do is maybe judge your typography and your use of color, and if you know accessibility. So that, to me, doesn't sound like a UX job. That sounds like a visual designer UI job. And so it really depends on where you want to focus. So I don't look at those things, because to me, they're not UX. There was no user involved. Some people say do it, others say it's best to do side projects. And again, this is similar to Vanessa's question. I hope you were here for Vanessa's question and answer, because you can do side projects, but who's checking your work? You can do all the side projects on the planet. You can do paid side projects. You can do free side projects. Who is checking your work? Who is saying, you're kind of new to this, and hey, there's something you didn't do quite right here. This isn't UX. There's a lot of people I see, their portfolios and their daily UI challenge and stuff, and I say, this isn't UX. This is web design. If it doesn't involve users one way or another, it's hard for me to call it UX. And that's how we all end up fighting each other. Because you're saying, hey, I'm a UX designer, look at these screens. And I'm saying, technically not. Technically not. Where is the user in all of this? Are you working from research? Did you do research? Are you doing testing? Where is the user? If the user's not involved, I tend to say this is visual or UI design, or branding design, or web design. So again, you can take on side projects free or paid, but where is your mentor? Where is your coach? Where is somebody who's going to look at this and say, Shauna, this looks great, but this over here, that is not a user flow, or that user flow doesn't make sense. I can't tell you how many portfolios I see where the user flow really doesn't make sense. And it makes me think that people are not really learning user flows correctly, or they're not using their critical thinking. So who's going to look at your stuff and go, wait, hold on, before you make those screens, this user flow isn't quite right. So to me, whether you are doing a real job or a side job or a free job or whatever, you should have a mentor or coach looking over your work at every step. Don't wait until the end for someone to go, oh yeah, back here at the beginning, you really messed this up. That's not going to look good in your portfolio. That's not going to feel good. That's not going to be good for your paying or not paying customer. How do I prepare for a design challenge for an interview I have coming? I hate design challenges. Hate times 10. I really don't think they should exist at all. I don't want anyone doing them. I mean, I have a squillion years doing this, and I don't want to do them. It just doesn't make sense. And why? Because of our old friend, people, contexts, and systems. Because when someone does a design challenge or a whiteboard challenge, you pretty much never have enough information to do the design. Never. And so it's really, how much can you guess in a short period of time? And my question for that job is always, is that how work here is done? Are we guessing at stuff in a rushed fashion? Like, does this design challenge reflect or represent the way work here is done? Because if it does, I don't think I want to work here. I want to get the right amount of time to do high quality work, to do my best work, to do world-class work based on a good user-centered design process. Now I've got too many things on the screen. Based on a good user-centered design process. Sorry about the funny spots on my camera today. Weird spots. I should probably clean my camera. So, Design challenges are terrible. I don't have people do them. I can tell what you know from your portfolio and from talking to you. Design challenges, we've done a bunch of shows on these. Mostly, so I can't tell you how to get them right because seemingly no one gets them right. But I would say if you go to YouTube and you type in Delta CX Design Challenge or Delta CX Challenge, I think you'll come up with at least 2 videos that we did there. And to me, the main thing you can do in a design challenge is get the correct expectations. I find that a lot of companies give incredibly vague design challenges. You know, you're making a new system of money for the future. Send us wireframes. Wait, hold on. What does that mean? What is this? Who is it for? How are they going to use it? People, context, systems. Do we have any real or fake research data that you can give me that I would use to design this thing? Or we typically see something that has a bizarre amount of detail because it's something that's real for the company. So for example, if you are being interviewed for a UX job at a supermarket and the design challenge has to do with supermarkets or something rather like supermarkets, I normally suggest refusing to do those because chances are they are looking for free ideas. And sometimes there is no job. So be very careful about that. Also, I recommend do not do a design challenge until you know what this job pays and you like the number. It is not worth wasting your time for hours or days to do this exercise, which can't go in your portfolio anyway because it's a half hour or hours of guessing. No one wants to see that. Make sure you're happy with the salary. And if they won't tell you the salary, I would take that as a bad sign. I would say, you know, before I spend hours or days or whatever working on this, I'd like to know what this job pays to make sure it's in the range I'm looking for. And if they say, oh, we'll tell you the pay later, I would say, no, thank you. And I know that's difficult for people looking for their first job. They feel like they have to have no standards. They feel like they have to say yes to anything. They feel like they have to date the first person that kisses them. And you know what? You don't. And you can say, you know what? This isn't a match to me. The right company for me would be forthcoming and honest and upfront about the salary. The right job for me, you know, hashtag empathy, everybody, empathy, hashtag empathy. The right job for me would care about not wasting my time and would want me to know the salary upfront to make sure it's a match. You know, so I would say, be careful. I think in general, design challenges are very difficult. We once reviewed a design challenge on the Friday stream. It was some woman on YouTube, some young woman who does some design challenge. She does like some design challenge advice and she does some design challenges. And we looked through one of her videos on YouTube and I actually thought she did a poor job on the design challenge. And it's strange because she kind of puts herself out there as like the coolest YouTuber for learning what to do with design challenges. And then I thought she didn't do a good job with it. I wouldn't have given her the job. So ultimately, that's why ultimately, you can't really prepare. A design challenge is meant to be a surprise, think on your feet thing, if it's kind of a whiteboard or during the interview thing, or it's meant to be some take-home homework, but in a really short amount of time. Anna says, sometimes companies don't interview UX designers. The first step is email with task and deadline. And I wouldn't do that. That doesn't make sense. That's inhuman. We're talking our entire profession is aimed at making experiences better for people in whatever way better can be better, faster, easier, cheaper, more intuitive, more logical, easier to learn, easier to use. If you won't even tell me what this pays, if you won't even have a conversation with me to know if I'm shortlisted, I'm not going to start with the challenge. That definitely makes me think they're just looking for free ideas for something related to their business. Someone sent me a design challenge that a very famous cargo ship company had sent them. And the design challenge was like, imagine you work in a factory that's putting different things in boxes. And I was like, Well, clearly, this is the cargo shipping company trying to get you to design cargo shipping without calling it cargo shipping and pretending it's a factory. This is bull. Hey, Madalena, how are you? Okay, Madalena's got a question. We'll put that on the list. So again, my advice to UX juniors is it's important to have standards. I know you're thinking you just have to get the first job you can, but all you have to do is spend a couple of minutes in the Delta CX Slack, which is available for free. Our workspace and our community are available for free. You can follow the link at deltacx.com/links. All you have to do is spend a few minutes in there and listen to people complaining about their first UX jobs and I'm not getting the support they needed and it isn't really UX and blah, blah, blah. It's okay to have standards because otherwise then you're going to be coming to me and saying, what's the shortest amount of time a job can be on my resume or CV before I can leave? And that's a bad sign. So it's okay to be pickier up front. You don't have to say yes to everything, especially to a job that's not going to set you up to learn and grow so that you have something better on your portfolio for next time. You can ask the people in our Slack channel. Some people have been doing internships or jobs, and they were such crappy jobs that were so crappy to UX workers, they don't have something fresh for their portfolio for the next job. I interviewed a woman a couple of weeks ago. She's been working for years at a very famous company, a company most of you would know. And she's been the only UX person there, sometimes two people, sometimes one researcher. And because she's the only person there, they never give her time to do things well. Now she doesn't have a good portfolio of doing great work. Now she feels stuck. How am I ever going to get out of this job and get another one when I can't show that I can do better work? And maybe I haven't done better work. This is really, really tough stuff. That's why I tell people if a job is bad, try to get out early before you start feeling like that and have standards and ask better questions. And if they send you, here's an email, here's your task, here's your deadline, just say, no, thank you. You know, let them pick someone else. Oh, Kelsey is here. Yay, Kelsey. I know, I'm so excited that you have a new job. We have a couple of questions before you, and then we'll put Kelsey's question up. Okay, so next was the Janice question. Let's put that one up. And here we go. Okay, Janice says, I'm trying to develop my research skills. Is there anything I can do proactively without a mentor to learn how to do good research or analysis? Okay, if you don't have the budget for a mentor or coach, and if you don't have a budget for something like the Curiosity Tank courses, which are not sponsored, I do not get paid to recommend them, as many of you know. Then I would say your best bet is you're trying to learn from whatever is free. You know, we've got lots of videos in the micro lessons playlist here on the YouTube channel that are about research. So you can certainly look at those. But ultimately, if you are trying to improve your research skills, somebody probably needs to look at your work at some point. I always kind of compare it to sports or music. You can try to learn piano and you can try to teach yourself piano, but at a certain point, you're probably going to need a piano teacher or piano expert to take a look at your skills and technique and say, aha, look at how you're holding your fingers, or whatever the case may be. So the problem is trying to develop skills in a new area with technically no feedback, no expertise, none of that stuff to me is only going to be so successful because you're not getting that feedback you need. I think Manash is here. How do you approach a redesign for different sections of a website? I think I'm going to need more information than that. Yeah. Can you give me more information on that? I'm not sure I get what you mean by that. Okay. Let's see. We've got a think out loud suggestion coming in. Okay, I will look at that later. Thank you. research takes years to be good at, and I think the longer you do it without some sort of instructor or coach, the longer it's going to take to get good at it. Just like anything else. If I tried to teach myself tennis, there's only so good that I'm going to get at it if I don't have some sort of coach or someone looking at that, because you want to develop your skills, but who's checking to see if you are developing your skills? Who's checking to see if you're doing good things the right ways, making good choices, seeing the patterns, or even asking good questions? Someone's got to look in on this. It's really hard for many people learning something new to self-assess. Sometimes you hear YouTubers and other people saying, yeah, just teach yourself. And I say, that sounds right until we put on our critical thinking hats and say, well, then how are you going to assess if you did something well or not if you don't have the expertise to know if you did it well or not? It's just so weird. Yeah, thanks, Janice. I'm glad it made sense. Woo! I love when I make sense. We've got about 10 or so minutes left because I've got another call after this and I need to get ready. So I apologize that this one was weirdly scheduled and short. Let's answer Madalina's question. Hey, any thoughts on give feedback widgets on websites? So give feedback widgets on websites can be good. In a vacuum, there's nothing wrong with them. The question is, where's that feedback going and who's doing anything about it? And so is it going to a CX or voice of the customer team? Is it going to customer support to catch problems and respond to them? Is any of that getting funneled back to our three voices triad, UX, engineering, and product managers, so that we can see if there are pain points or opportunities or something that we should be working on fixing? Do we have teams who have time to make fixes and improvements, or are we just going to keep chasing the new shiny object and not go back and make those fixes? So I like feedback buttons on websites for the people who choose to fill them out. So whether it's a feedback button or it's an ideas portal or a suggestions forum, I tend to like these things because I do like to collect the voice of the customer. I do like real potential trial and other customers and users to express themselves and for other people to get involved. But the question is, who's doing anything with that? Who's reviewing it? Whose job is it to review that? What happens with those questions, comments, pain points, suggestions? Are they being measured or tracked or prioritized? What's happening with that? So to me, give feedback, great. What's happening with it? Ranges. I've seen companies mostly ignore it because they feel like we don't have enough people to even make those fixes, so why bother looking at it? And it can certainly range all the way up to companies who act on good ideas quickly. So it's hard for me to say anything beyond I like them hypothetically, but then, you know, how does that manifest is a question I find myself asking a lot. Okay, let's get to Kelsey's question, and then if Manash can give us more detail about redesigning a website, I'll try to answer that, but I feel like the question is a little bit vague. I'll try to answer it if I don't get more information. All right, let's all cheer on Kelsey first of all. Yay! Because Kelsey is going to be starting as a new UX research intern. Super exciting. Now, first of all, as I keep saying, if this is an internship, then chances are you're working with a larger team where there are going to be some seniors or leads or managers who are going to be checking your work and giving you feedback. And I really hope that you'll remind them that you do want critical feedback and tough love feedback. You don't just want cheerleading. You really want to grow and learn, and where you're not doing things as well as you could have, you want to hear it. So, you know, I would make sure early on that you've expressed to them that you are, oh, yes, congrats, Kelsey, a little champagne bottle emoji up there. Make sure everybody knows early, and though they may have known it from your interview, that you are open to feedback. You want to hear it all. Don't hold back. You want that help, you know, even if it's bad news, even if it could be a little upsetting at first. you're going to bounce back and you're going to be better for it. Please give me that feedback. I want to hear it. Yeah, Party Poppers from Udipta says congrats. How can I be prepared and not let the team down? Well, first of all, I don't know what they're going to give you to do, so I don't know what the team expects from you, and I don't know how you're going to be judged. So these are probably things to figure out very early with whoever is your lead or manager. What kind of work do you need me to do? How am I doing it with a team? Am I working on things alone and then having my work checked? Again, you could have found this out in the interview, but maybe you'll find it out in your first days. And how will my progress or work quality be judged? When are the work reviews? How often are the work reviews? And please make sure that people are catching my work, before it has, if I'm making any, hey, I'm new here, I'm the intern. If I'm making any mistakes, I hope we'll catch these early enough because I really don't want to let people down. Thank you all. So I would say, first of all, don't go in with any kind of negative or defeatist attitude. You got the job. They picked you, probably from 200 applications. So just remember that this should be set up to support you and coach you. If for some reason you're not getting work reviews or coaching or things like that, let me know, because you should be. But sometimes people bring in interns, they give them some weird project and they just let them run on it for weeks or months, and I don't get that. To me, that's not an internship. Kelsey says, yeah, good point. They haven't discussed performance review criteria with me. I'll discuss them early. Yeah, I think that is a good idea. How will I be judged? How often will we be looking at my work reviews? Things like that. Hopefully this will be a good environment where they're going to make sure that they are getting you feedback. To me, I want to check an intern's work at least once a week. In a dream, I'm checking it 2 or 3 times a week, just because I don't want anybody to get too far into something and be chasing the wrong thing. Sometimes I give a researcher, hey, let's make a research plan. And they spend days writing not so good questions. Well, it'd be great if I caught that on day 2 and not on day 5. So I like to say that it's best to check in with interns and apprentices at least once a week, but in my dreamy dream world, 2 or 3 times a week. And then don't necessarily wait for them to check in with you. You are there as an intern. You're there to learn, in my opinion. And so if you have a question, if you're not sure, like, hey, I've been working on these questions for a day or 2. I'm worried I'm not going in the right direction. Can you please have a look at these? Oh, you look lovely, honey. Have a good time. He's all suited up for a little bike ride. We got bikes. I rode today. I did it. I went outside. I saw the sun. And again, Kelsey, you know that you can always message me in our Slack channel if you are panicking or having any particular questions. You don't have to wait for Tuesday. That's one of the fun aspects of the Slack channel. People have some direct access to me if they really need it. And just go to deltacx.com/links and just find the Slack universe and join there. Again, it's totally free. And, you probably know 5 people who work in UX or are hoping to get into UX, and they might enjoy this channel. Please tell them about the Delta CX channel. We're really looking to beef up our membership this year, and especially find more people who can take advantage of all of our free lessons and free help and all the things that we do. So that was the Kelsey question. Looks like Manash, you asked a question and then ran away, but let's try to do a short answer because I really do have to go. But I will be back here, I think, next week. Let's just check. Let's just check that I'm going to be here next week because these times keep getting all messed up. So let's take you can always go to deltacx.com/links and check our event calendar. You'll know better than I am if I'm going to be here next week. Yes, next week looks like regular time. 6:30 Italy time, and I'm going to have a special guest joining for office hours. Ask Me Anything. Looks like the super Karen Lynn will be here. If you want to stalk her on LinkedIn, it's Karen with a K, and her last name is Lin. She will be a special guest taking your questions next week. If you want to send some ahead of time, use the anonymous system to send them ahead of time, deltacx.link/ask. That'll be April 5th. So how do you approach a redesign for different sections of a website? Well, again, if this is UX, then U is for users and we involve them. So typically before I'm doing any website redesign work, I am doing research first. Now, you might not be the researcher, you might be the designer. Someone should be doing research first, and I don't mean running a survey. So depending upon what you are redesigning and why, you probably need to do some research. I like to do this type of research both with some of our current customers, but also with people who are not our current customers, because sometimes we learn more from the people who aren't our customers. The people who are our customers are used to our system, they've created workarounds, they've found ways to make it work for them even when our system sucks. It's great to take newbies who haven't seen our system before, throw them into it and give them a task to complete and see where we meet. Who knows what I'm going to put up now? The 4 horsemen of bad UX, my registered trademark: frustration, confusion, disappointment, and distraction. So I would always start with research. And then as for redesign, we would recommend task analysis as your next step. So again, you can go to the micro lessons playlist in YouTube, look up the videos on task analysis. I think there's 4 of them now. The first one is task analysis and optimized task flow, and then the other ones are part of the same series. So start there. And then you're looking at your optimized task flow or your user flow. So how should this work? In what order? What are people going to see or do in what order? And how did we optimize that so that it's a good experience? Now you've got a roadmap for what you're going to build because you have a user flow. Some people are taking this path, some people are taking this path. There might be an error message path over here. And now you know what to design because you have your user flow or optimized task flow. You can also check the micro lesson on designing backwards, which assumes that you have a task flow or user flow, and Larry shows you a technique to design backwards through the flow instead of starting at the beginning. So these are some things that we typically do in Delta CX when we have projects that have to do with redesigning a website. I just sent a potential client a proposal yesterday where they need new information architecture and navigation because they're bringing 2 companies' websites together for a brand new one because one company bought the other. We want to start with a mountain of research to learn what people are doing in this portal so that we can suggest the best optimized experience for the future version. So research first, then information architecture like your task flows and how to make those optimized. So make sure you're optimizing them and not just mapping the current state and redesigning the current state. Optimize it. Don't just settle for the current state. Make it better. And then fresh screens based on what you've learned, and especially what you've learned about people, contexts, and systems. Very often when you're redesigning a website, you're redesigning it. If it is a customer-facing kind of sales website, you need it to be more compelling and do a better job selling what your company does. If it's the internal portal, like a SaaS system, same thing, people, contexts, and systems. What are their tasks? What did they log into the portal to do? This is where task analysis and all of those micro lessons are going to really, really help. And then, of course, it's not UX without you. And I don't mean you. So don't forget to usability test with representative people, buckets of them, moderated and or unmoderated, so you can make sure not that people can get through it. That's cheesy testing. Don't do it. You want to make sure that it really solves the original problem, that we really made this streamlined, better, optimized, easier to learn, easier to use, and things like that. Looks like based on the GPS message I just got, I think my dog is chasing my boyfriend as he bikes. Oh no, Olivia, come home. All right, so I'm going to have to run because I have another call in 10 minutes. Great to see everybody and some of the new people here. Again, I do this every Tuesday. I take absolutely any questions you have. No questions are off limits. Monday will be, let's see, well, today is only Tuesday. So tomorrow is Wednesday, and it looks like we don't have a show. I originally had a call scheduled at this time, so I'll see everybody Friday for Critical Thinking stream. Hugs to you, Elvina. Thank you, Manaj. And then next week's schedule, think out loud. Someone just sent something. If it's good, we'll do it. If not, no offense. Tuesday, office hours Ask Me Anything at the normal time, 6:30 p.m. Italy time, and we just changed our clock, so we should be good until fall. Wednesday the 6th is my full day workshop. Now, my full day workshop is really aimed at people who are not UX newbies, but you probably know someone who's not a UX newbie, so you can suggest it to them. You can find it at deltacx.link/TTCC-training, and that stands for Transforming Toward Customer Centricity. And that's my new workshop helping people improve UX maturity and make change in their company so that we're doing a better job creating things for users. Thanks, Jatine. Good to see you. Let's see, what else is happening next week? Thursday the 7th is our Slack monthly networking. If you're in the Slack community, check the live events channel. There will be a secret link there, and we will meet in a video and audio optional but suggested call, and we talk about UX or don't. It's nice just to talk about not UX and just get to know each other, but it's just a kind of a live networking thing, also completely free. Meow meow, good to see you too. So I'm going to play us out of here so I can get ready for my next call, and I hope everybody has a super day and is going to be safe. We're off for a couple of days, but don't forget these are always archived on YouTube, so you can always play them back or share them with friends. We have over 500 videos, so just go to YouTube and search for something on your mind. Delta CX keyword. Go for it. And remember to subscribe and tell friends about the channel. Thanks, everybody. See you on Friday. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are